This year, I felt like nobody wanted to make trades this year. Welcome in the Booth Fantasy Football Podcast. It's me, Brent O'Connor, here with Kyle Hacker. We're missing our host with the most, Juan Valley. Unfortunately, this week, he's on the COVID reserve list. He's going to be out. We're kind of feeling our way through this, so we apologize ahead of time if there's any inconsistencies or any issues with the podcast this week. Kyle, what'd you think? Was my impression of Juan up to par?
Man, I think Juan might have to start looking for a new job because you might have just did a better intro than he's ever done.
I'll take that.
Just kidding, Juan. We love you.
All right, so let's. You ready to get started?
Let's get it.
All right. First thing here, let's talk about what happened in Week 12. COVID came and just was rampant throughout the league this week.
Man.
Baltimore placed 18 players on the COVID-19 list. I mean, what do you think they're going to do in this game? I know some players came back. I don't know if you have the list up in front of you, but what do you think they're going to do for this game against the Steelers?
So I do not have the list up, but I do know they're now to 16 players on the reserve COVID-19 list going into this game. 7 of which of those players have been to a Pro Bowl. So they're losing a ton of talent on this team. Lamar Jackson's not going to be playing. Robert Griffin is the backup.
Now, so you bring up their quarterback situation. So real quick, I did pull up this list. They activated Brandon Williams, their defensive tackle, Trace McSorley, Tavon Young, cornerback, Khalil Dorsey, and then the most important part to me is that J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram are both are eligible. It doesn't say they're going to be activated, but they're at least eligible to be activated for the game tomorrow. But back to the quarterback situation. I kind of think that Robert Griffin might give them a better chance than Lamar Jackson.
I had a feeling that was coming up, and that's just due to the conversation we had last week about Lamar Jackson, and I know you're not high on him, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you think that Lamar Jackson or Robert Griffin is a more capable passer?
It's such a touch.
Okay,
we haven't seen Robert Griffin in so long.
He played last year sparingly, but your hesitation right there tells me that you kind of think that he's a better passer. Yeah. So with their running backs being out, I feel like that might give them a better chance.
And I understand that. Talking about the running backs as well, I was excited to see Gus Edwards be featured this week.
Same.
So for me,
especially I picked him up and I've been holding him for like 3 weeks. So I was especially excited to see him.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I wanted to see Gus featured in that offense. I think that he's a very good back. I think that he was going to eat. And Pittsburgh's defense, I know they're good, but they haven't been as good to opposing running backs over the last few weeks. So I was excited to see that. Hopefully J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram doesn't need all of his touches. We'll see.
Yeah, I definitely need it. I need him to come through in a couple leagues. So moving on to the next team that really got the gut punch, Denver. Now, part of this was on the quarterbacks themselves. They evidently weren't using proper protocols and were, I guess, unmasked or whatever. Close enough to where they put themselves in danger of being contaminated or whatever for the game as well. Jeff Driscoll tested positive, and then that wiped out every other quarterback on their roster. And they had to start Kendall Hinton, who was a practice squatter at quarterback. He had 9 attempts, 1 completion for 13 yards. What do you think?
It wasn't good. And then I read a report stating that Hinton, which you have to give him props, a few weeks ago he was doing sales. I mean, this guy wasn't playing football. He comes in, he's on the practice squad. He gets to start for this game. He didn't look good, but he does have a story to tell, to his
Absolutely.
kids. I mean, he got to start. He's a starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos, even if it was for one game. I mean, that's props to him.
You're right. You bring up a point that I think a lot of people don't necessarily consider. Like you said, this guy was playing wide receiver on the practice squad. He wasn't taking any reps at quarterback, like not a single one. So it's not like he's learning the playbook as a quarterback, learning routes and trying to get on the same page with receivers. He's playing wide receiver, trying to catch balls, not throw balls. Like it's crazy.
When you really think about that, man, you can kind of use this, I guess, to, if you're doing something today that you don't like to do, tomorrow you could be a quarterback for the National Football League. Is that what we're getting at?
I mean, since did you hear the report that the NFL denied Denver was so desperate that they tried to get their quarterback's coach approved to play. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah, that's crazy. And the news came out too, and I don't know if you've seen this or not, but Drew Lock and Bortles was taken off the COVID list. So
I did see that.
Going forward, hopefully the Denver Broncos will kind of have a fair chance at getting to play football again. I mean, they had no shot playing against this Saints offense.
Right. They also signed. I don't know if you saw this report. They also signed the Shermer. Pat, I can't remember his name. Pat Shermer's son. I think it's Kyle Shermer. But they signed him. I don't know if he still has to go through the quarantine process, so he's not going to be eligible to play on their roster for 10 days. But there's been murmurs of that being like a disciplinary action for the quarterbacks because they were so lax in adhering to the protocols. I think that's interesting and kind of something to watch. Are they going to try and make a point and sit Drew Lock just out of spite? It'd be crazy. One, I mean, not that they're like trying to fight for a playoff spot, but just go that far just to prove a point. But it would severely hinder a lot of players' productions. You have Jerry Jeudy, you got Tim Patrick, Noah Fant. I mean, if you can load the box on Melvin Ingram and Phillip Lindsay,
Melvin Gordon, yeah. And then I seen a report that Phillip Lindsay was injured. Have you seen anything else on that?
He went out with a knee injury. I haven't seen if he's participated in any practices or any updates, but yeah, I mean, that's something to talk about. Melvin Ingram, I keep saying that's the second time. Melvin Gordon, I want to say one of his best games was when Phillip Lindsay was out.
Yeah, they're not splitting touches at that,
So back to the COVID issue, though. San Francisco also had a development. Santa Clara put a nix to all sporting events, any public venue events. So San Francisco is going to have to move their practices and games to another location. And the report that I just saw was that they're going to be moving to Arizona for their games. What do you think that does for their home field advantage or lack thereof?
Yeah, so the lack thereof is definitely something to think about. But in my honest opinion, I think just the injuries to George Kittle, Jimmy Garoppolo, their running backs have been injured pretty much all year. This is just another bump in the road for this team, and hopefully they can find a way to, play like a at-home football team in the stadium. But they're already dealing with injuries, so it's just something else to deal with. Do
you think that the home field advantage is as big of an advantage this year because of the limit on fans and how much that has changed the whole home atmosphere?
I would think so. I've never played in an NFL game, so I can't speak from the player's perspective. But even just watching these games on TV and hearing the fake noise, and I know there's some fans returning, but I'm sure it's nothing like it was before. I would imagine running on the field and hearing thousands and
All that
thousands
hype.
of fans hype you up would definitely, like for me, yeah, that would definitely make me change the way that I was playing on the field. With that being said, these guys get paid a lot of money to play football, so they should be playing the same way.
Like you said, though,
I don't know.
that a lot of that energy and a lot of that hype comes from the fans and what they bring to the stadium every week. And I feel like that's part of the issue with some players and some teams' slow starts earlier in the year and early in games.
Yeah.
All right, moving on, though, to the Thanksgiving games. Thanksgiving was a big day for fantasy. You had terrible games. The games absolutely sucked, but the fantasy numbers didn't.
Yeah.
I know you were excited, Kyle.
Oh man, I was super excited. I had a few players going that definitely helped me out this week, although didn't get the win at the end of the day. So, but it was still nice to see Deshaun Watson go off. Will Fuller went off. Yeah, exactly. The report came out that Will Fuller was using some performance enhancing drugs, and that's not only my team, but a lot of people are going to feel that injury. But we'll talk about that a little later. But yeah, definitely some a lot of production, and Antonio Gibson absolutely went off, and he looked good.
I mean, granted, it was against the Dallas defense, who gives up rushing yards and rushing points to every running back. But I agree. Antonio Gibson, I was impressed. It's the past 2 weeks now. Granted, both weeks were against lackluster defenses, Cincinnati and Dallas. But do you think he continues that kind of production going forward?
I'm not sure if on this offense you can expect him to get one touchdown, more or less 3 going forward. But he looked good. He got 20 touches. He had 115 yards. At 20 touches, that anybody in the NFL that's getting 20 touches, you can expect them to have a good game.
Do you think he can continue to average 5 yards a carry?
I'm not sure. That's tough to call. Antonio Gibson, he looked elusive. I mean, he looked very fast. But with that being said, this Cincinnati defense wasn't that good. On a few of them runs to the end zone, he was untouched. There was no defensive players around him. There was nobody to tackle him. So could he continue the 5 yards per carry? It's a possibility, but I need to see more going forward.
He's got Pittsburgh, San Francisco, and Seattle the next 3 weeks.
Doesn't sound good.
Do you think he can, like Pittsburgh? Obviously, that's tough. But do you think he could do it against San Francisco or Seattle?
If I was a betting man, I would say no.
I mean, that's getting into your playoffs there, and
didn't think about that.
And yeah. I mean, is he a guy you're looking to sit, or are you going to roll with him?
I think you have to roll with him. Just for me, anyways. If I have a guy that gets me to the playoffs, and he's still the guy. You can't sit your studs.
There you go.
You have to play him. So is he going to average 5 yards a carry? I'm not sure, but if he's going to get 20 touches, you roll the dice and you see what happens.
Right on. What'd you think about the wide receiver play? You had Terry McLaurin. He had 7 receptions on 9 targets for 92 yards. Today he has 963 yards and 3 touchdowns. Amari Cooper had 6 receptions on 8 targets, 112 yards with a TD. And then Will Fuller, like we said, he's got some other issues, but he was 6 receptions, 7 targets, 171 yards. 171 yards.
Man, he went all
killer.
Yeah.
And 2 TDs. He's 11th in receiving yards, 8 touchdowns, and there's only 5 players with more touchdowns than him. You have Tyreek Hill Adam Thielen, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, and DK Metcalf.
Yeah, the receiver play was nice. One of the players that me personally I like, Amari Cooper. He 6 for 8, 112 yards and a touchdown. That was nice to see. I've always liked Amari Cooper. I know he's not he's gonna one week he might get you 2 points. Yeah, he's very boom bust. But it was nice to see him, play well.
You know what I was this is the thing about Andy Dalton. I feel like this is a bigger thing with Andy Dalton. He depends on his stud receiver. And
yeah.
When he was in Cincinnati, how A.J. Green just got peppered and peppered and peppered and peppered with target after target. I think that's what he's going to do with Amari Cooper. As long as Andy Dalton's not getting knocked out with concussions, this may become the regular for the rest of the season for Amari Cooper.
I hope for Amari Cooper's sake that is the case, but I'm not going to trust it going forward. So.
That's fair. Do you trust Terry McLaurin more, or do you trust Amari Cooper more?
I have to say Terry McLaurin, and that's just because if you go back over the last year, Terry McLaurin, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, he's catching 10 to 12 targets. He's getting the looks with the Cowboys. That offense, Andy Dalton does look good. I mean, at least he's throwing to Amari Cooper. Like you said, if he gets injured and another one of them quarterbacks come in, Amari Cooper, the past couple weeks, he hasn't. This is the first time I can think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. This is the first time that he's had 6 targets. I would say in the
Amari
last couple
Cooper.
Weeks. Yeah.
Give me just a second. Okay, so he had 8 targets this week against Washington, then 7 targets, 6 targets, 5 targets, 7 targets, 10 targets in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, okay.
No, but do you know what week Dak went down? Like week 8, week 7?
It's close, something like that.
Like four games, probably without him. So you have 5, 6, 7, 8. It sounds like he's in line to get 9 targets next week.
Right, no doubt. Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. Terry McLaurin, I think he's a bona fide number 1 stud. If he had a little bit better offense, he would be in the talks with like the top 5 receivers in the league.
I mean, even to date, he's almost to 1,000 yards this season.
And you still got 5 games left.
Yeah, so he's.
And you want to talk about targets now? How many? Alex Smith has played 3 games, I think. 9, 7, 9 in the past 3 games, and he's just about to that 100-yard mark. 95, 84, 92. I mean, he's killing it.
So Keenan Allen has 85 targets. He's leading the league in targets this year.
Mm-hmm.
Terry McLaurin is really close to that top 10 range. He's got 69 targets, and he's gonna continue to get peppered with targets.
You sure, boss? You sure he's how? You
69
sure?
receptions.
You talking about receptions or targets?
Yeah, did I say targets?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Terry McLaurin, 69 receptions. Keenan Allen, 85.
Okay.
But so Keenan Allen has 122 targets. Terry McLaurin has 102. So he's only 20 targets away
from number 1.
And that Terry McLaurin, how many has he missed any games? I feel like he missed.
No, he didn't miss any.
None.
No.
Okay, gotcha. So Keenan Allen is just getting absolutely peppered with targets this year. I'm not sure anybody.
I mean,
seen that coming.
It's easy to think that Terry McLaurin missed some games because of the quarterback play.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost non-existent, so he might as well have missed some games. But no, he has not missed a single game. He's put up decent numbers, like you said, all through the year.
Yeah, and he's top 3 with targets over 20+ yards.
Yeah.
So he's getting the downfield looks. There's only Justin Jefferson and DK Metcalf have more targets than him over 20+ yards.
He's a guy that if I'm in a keeper, like more than 2 keeper league, I would target to make a move for. He's in his second year, so about 30-year wide receivers. That's usually the year that they really go off. He's a guy that I think is gonna just be unstoppable next year.
And I think he's somebody that you can acquire. I know in our league he's been passed around multiple teams, and it's. I mean, let's face it. He plays for the Washington football team. That's one of the reasons why I truly believe that he's passed around, and
I agree.
That's why. I mean, I had him on my team. I traded him for that reason.
You traded him to me, and then I traded him away.
And I mean, before me, he was on like 3 or 4 other teams. So you can target him, and so that might be a good a good target if you need some help at wide receiver. I think you could probably pull him away from whoever.
Make a move for him and get another stud on your team. And that's if you're in a rare league that still has their trade deadline open. This is the time to start to condense your roster and really try and get those bona fide studs. If you can pair 2 of your players to get a stud, this is the time you do it. All right, moving on to what do you think about Kansas City and Tampa Bay?
Man, I Patrick Mahomes
beast
looks like the best quarterback that ever played the game. I mean, he went 37 of 49, 462 yards with 3 touchdowns.
469. Okay. Well, then we have it on our sheet wrong.
Yeah, I show 462. But anyway, either way, man, he just was absolutely on fire. This Tampa Bay defense looked really good earlier on in the season. He made them look like the Detroit Lions defense. I mean, Tyreek Hill went absolutely off. He had 269 yards in this game. He did a backflip into the end zone on one play. I mean,
he had 200 yards in the first quarter.
Yeah, he should have.
I feel like Tampa Bay's defense really did a disservice to Carlton Davis. It was like,
man,
Carlton Davis, you just go cover Tyreek Hill. Yeah. We're just gonna leave you one-on-one with him the entire game. Figure it out,
man. And it just didn't work out. One thing that I would like to touch on, and their running backs, fantasy wise, it wasn't good for them. And I feel like this could be a problem going forward. I mean, when you have Patrick Mahomes, it almost doesn't make sense to run the ball. So I understand why they're doing that, but their running game has just been. I mean, even last week, no rushing touchdowns.
So yes and no. So I feel like they're a team that does a good job at exploiting defenses. So last week, no rushing touchdowns, but last week against the Rams?
No. Buccaneers.
Oh, okay. So you're Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones. Is that who you're talking about?
No. I'm talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell. I'm talking about the Chiefs running backs.
So when they played the Buccaneers, they didn't score any touchdowns. Okay, I thought you were talking about the game before.
No.
So that's the thing. I feel like they can score. So when they played the Raiders last week, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a decent game. He was 14 for 69 and 2 touchdowns. But that's what I mean. They exploit the defenses as needed. So if Patrick Mahomes needs to make a big play, if he needs to hit Kelsey over the middle, he can hit Kelsey. If he needs to hit Tyreek Hill on a bomb, he'll hit Tyreek Hill.
It's so unfair if you have Travis Kelsey this year.
Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelsey are number 1 and number 2 in receiving yards. Yeah. That's crazy.
That really is.
Well, first of all, to have a tight end as your number 2 in receiving yards is just ludicrous.
Insane, man. And then going over to the Buccaneers side of the ball, what did you think about Tom Brady in this game?
Man, Tom Brady, he did not look good at in the early parts of the game, but it seems like he gained maybe some composure and was able to give them a fighting chance and bring them back into the game.
Yeah, Tom Brady, he still threw for. I mean, it was 345 yards through 3 touchdowns. If you have Mike Evans, you were super excited that he was getting the red zone targets. Yeah. Ronald Jones, he had that gallop into the end zone. It was like 30 or 40 yards, whatever it was, but he literally jumped over that Kansas City defender and looked very athletic. I mean, I don't know going forward. I think Ronald Jones I think he's reclaimed that running back role for the Buccaneers. What do you think?
I absolutely agree that he has definitely taken over that number one spot. I just don't know that they give him enough carries. I mean, Leonard Fournette had 3 carries in this game. And I mean, that's nothing. Ronald Jones, he, like you said, looked good and was productive. He had 9 carries for 66 yards.
Game script too, though. This week,
and that's a big part of it. Yeah. I agree. And see, this is the thing about Bruce Arians' offense is I feel like they just want to hit that big play all the time, and they never. So you're saying your top 2 backs had 12 carries combined. You're telling me that 12 carries is enough to get into a rhythm? I mean, even a semblance of a rhythm.
Not at all. Nope.
I think that Bruce Arians, I know that his offense has been productive and done well in other arenas and with other teams, but I don't know that it's really working this year.
Antonio Brown.
What about him?
What happened to Antonio Brown?
What happened? He played. He finally played the role that he should be playing.
I agree.
Like that's where he should be. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans should be the ones dominating targets.
Yep, and they did this week. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans had 11 targets. Antonio Brown 2. Another player in this offense that I'm excited about going forward and is Rob Gronkowski. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't high on Gronkowski this year just because he's been out of football, but I think he's finally starting to get into football shape, and Tom Brady is throwing the ball to Gronk.
That's the bigger thing is I don't know if it's football shape, but it's somebody that Tom Brady knows he can depend on, and that's so the past 3 games with Antonio Brown, I feel like that's what he's tried to force is. It's like he's trying to force the ball to him to have a safety net almost. And instead of looking for the open receiver, they're looking for Antonio Brown all the time.
Yep. Going into a different game with where we can talk about quarterbacks. What about the Raiders versus the Falcons? I mean, that was... Man, I don't think anybody seen that coming.
I sure as heck didn't.
I mean, yeah.
I part of me like feels bad for Derek Carr, but part of me is like, dude, what the hell? He had what three fumbles? Is that right?
Is that
right? 3 fumbles or 3 interceptions?
Yikes!
One interception. One interception and 3 fumbles.
Man,
I don't know how you can be so not secure with the ball. Like how you can just allow yourself to have 3 fumbles, but like for that to happen, that's just terrible.
Man. Falcons side of the ball. I don't even want to talk about it too much. That was so bad. I can't even believe that the Falcons blew out the Raiders. Matt Ryan, 22 for 39, 185 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game.
You could talk about his numbers. Like his numbers weren't even impressive.
Not at all. And I know a hot pickup this week was Brian Hill. Brian Hill, 13 carries for 55 yards.
Nah. Part of you were talking about game script in the last game. That's a big part of that too. So Brian Hill had 13 carries, 14 carries for 55 yards, and then Ito Smith had 12 carries for 65 yards. But a lot of those carries came in the fourth quarter when the game was already in hand, and it was just kind of handing the ball off. So some of that can be misconstrued to seem like Ito Smith was a more productive running back. It's just that he got the carries late in the game.
So do you think going forward, Brian Hill's the back to own there?
I think that Brian, if
Gurley's out,
if Gurley's out, then Brian Hill rather is gonna be getting the meaningful carries. Let's say. Now, to me, the important part is Ito Smith was the one getting receptions.
Right.
That's more concerning to me, the more important to me. And so if they are in a game where they're potentially going to be down or fighting to stay in contention with the other team, that Ito Smith may be in and be getting pass catching downs.
So I want to bring something up that I didn't realize it was this bad. The Raiders, 11 penalties for 141 yards in this game. Wow.
That's terrible.
11 penalties.
Do you know if that's offensive
yards.
or defensive, or does it doesn't specify?
It doesn't specify. Yeah, that's just something that I've seen that's absolutely crazy. 3 for 12, third down efficiencies, total of 4 fumbles.
They were just bad in all facets. They were just not good. And that's, every they're gonna have down games, but I feel like Derek Carr, I feel like he's been like a gamer this year. Like when it's been a tough game, that's when he's been most productive. I mean, look, let me find it. Sorry. You got
Josh Jacobs.
They played Buffalo 311 yards, Kansas City 347, Kansas City 275. Those are New Orleans 284. Those are his 4 highest yardage games, as well as quarterback ratings. It's like it's a tough game. Time to turn it on. But if it's a bad opponent, then let's not worry about it too much. Yep. And I will say that this last week against Atlanta was his lowest rating of the year.
So you feel comfortable starting Derek Carr going forward then?
Against the Jets? Absolutely.
Of course.
Against the Jets, I would definitely consider him. There are some other options that I probably consider before him. But, if you're in a tough spot and you need a quarterback, I'd definitely play him against the Jets. Moving on, the news we touched on it earlier. Will Fuller got suspended for 6 games. He was the number 11. Yeah, he's number 11 in receiving yards. Deshaun Watson without Will Fuller. He's got 20. He's taken 27% of the total passing yards away from Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt Deshaun Watson. I kind of looked into some stats without Will Fuller. Week 2 versus Baltimore, Deshaun Watson had 18 fantasy points. Week 10 versus Cleveland, 17 fantasy points. Every other game with Will Fuller playing and healthy, over 30 fantasy points. I mean, it's kind of wild to look at those stats and not be concerned about Deshaun Watson going forward.
Do you think the Texans are kicking themselves for releasing Kenny Stills now?
They have to be. There's a lot of people talking about Colt Couture.
Kiki Kuti?
No, him too, but there's a rookie there as well, 5th round. I believe his name's Isaiah Couture, he has really, he's the big body receiver. It's just, when a quarterback loses his number 1 receiver, I understand that Deshaun Watson is an incredible quarterback. However, it's going to take time to build that chemistry with any of these receivers. Even Brandon Cooks. This is his first year with Brandon Cooks. Kiki Kuti, he's one of them underneath guys where with Will they're losing a lot of speed in this offense. And I'm the Deshaun Watson manager in our league of record, and I'm very concerned going forward. You can't sit him, but I'm definitely I want to see what goes on next week just to kind of get a better idea. But I'm just
on their roster, it looks like they have Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb, Isaiah Coulter. Coulter.
Yeah, that sounds right. That's the guy that a lot of people or a lot of beat writers I've seen are talking about as far as stepping up. His profile is good, but like I said, it's kind of this. We've never seen this guy play football, so not never in the NFL.
Yeah, I hear you.
But he's 6'3", 200 pounds. He was a 5th round pick in this draft class. He played college football at Rhode Island. He had really good college stats, but
now the crazy thing is that they put Randall Cobb on IR last week.
Yep.
Released Kenny Stills last week, and now Will Fuller is out. So now they're down to Brandon Cooks and that Isaiah Coulter.
Hopefully that Coulter, however you pronounce it,
right.
This is, and I don't.
They do have 3 receivers on their practice squad, but I don't know how much of a role they actually play.
I do think this is a big boost for Duke Johnson. I think he's probably going to get a lot more targets out of the backfield.
Now, what if David Johnson comes back?
Yeah,
because
then that'll be a boost for David Johnson.
Do you think that they put one of them in the slot and they play them both at the same time?
They may have to. I mean,
yeah, I don't.
Randall Cobb's out for 2 more games.
It'll definitely be interesting. I think that Brandon Cooks is definitely going to get a big boost. I know he's getting a little bit older, but man, that he's such a good receiver, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it. Like, he's bounced around to different teams,
he's not. Do you think he's a number 1? That's what I think that this team is going to be lacking. Will Fuller, in my opinion, was the number 1 wide receiver.
I mean, is Brashad Perryman, is Jamison Crowder, are they number 1s?
Their record shows that they don't have a number 1 now. The Jets, I mean, that's what I'm getting at.
Fair.
And the difference between Deshaun Watson and Sam Darnold. I know Sam Darnold is a great quarterback, man, too. Like, he hasn't looked as good with the Jets, but he is decent. A good quarterback. Deshaun Watson is something else, man.
I agree. I think Brandon Cooks is he's like the bottom tier of a number 1. It's like with a good receiver, he's a number 2, but he could be a number 1.
A lot of could be's.
Think about the teams that he's played on.
Yeah.
When he was in New Orleans, was he a number 1? Yes. When he was in New England, was he a number 1? Yes. When he was in LA,
when he wasn't injured.
That's the thing. I don't think that they treated him like a number 1, but he was talent-wise, he was number 1. I think it's definitely going to be interesting. Houston's upcoming schedule is Indy, good defense, Chicago, good defense, and at Indy, good defense.
Without a number 1 receiver.
It could be tough sledding for Deshaun Watson. Or what are you doing yourself? Are you looking for another quarterback? Or
so I in our league, there's just not many quarterbacks available.
Kirk Cousins.
I have Taysom Hill in my bench. I've thought about Kirk Cousins. That's one person that I've thought about picking up. But
I'll trade you Ryan Fitzpatrick.
We can't trade. We can't. So like, man, my football team my fantasy football team just went from Deshaun Watson and Will Fuller to possibly Kirk Cousins and DJ Moore, who's also injured. Like,
man, that's rough.
Yeah,
I feel your pain. So you're in first place right now. 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, I went through a very similar thing where I was number one, best record, most points, and then my team just was like, oh, it's playoff time? Let's just take a big fat poop.
Yeah.
And
one thing
not do
we
anything.
didn't touch on here was like Dalvin Cook went down and he looked like he was out. So I was like, I almost went from, I'm pretty much losing.
That was I fumbled the football. Let me.
Yeah.
I got hurt though. That's what it was.
I agree. Then he came back in and he's good to go. But I'm like, man, here we go. So
I don't know, good to go because he didn't look that good. But
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm like, I thought for sure that he was out for the year. Just he went down, he's grabbing his knee, and then it comes out that it was an ankle injury.
Absolutely right.
Strange.
So with Will Fuller, do you think that Brandon Cooks is most likely owned already, right?
Yeah.
Do you think Kiki Kuti is worth adding?
I think in a PPR, any type of PPR league, yes. Standard league, I just don't see him.
Would you drop
yards.
like Jacoby Myers for Kiki Kuti?
No, I don't think so.
What about Cole Beasley?
Yes, Cole Beasley, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, moving on to injuries. Our injury wrap up. Daniel Jones, he went out with a hamstring injury. Colt McCoy came in. What do you think that means for Wayne Gallman or Darius Slayton, Evan Ingram?
It's not good for this offense in general. They already lost Saquon Barkley at the beginning of the year. Evan Ingram was having a game. I don't have the stats in front of me, but he was...
That's like 139 yards.
He was having a game. And this is something that, we've talked about. We've been waiting to see it. He's a talented tight end. His profile is good. He's fast. He's big. He's dropped a few passes this year. But, yeah, he's having a good game. And Daniel Jones is one of the mobile quarterbacks that can make, he makes things happen. And
yeah, I completely agree.
changes the offense drastically.
Evan Ingram, I wish that the Giants would use him the way the Patriots used Aaron Hernandez.
Yep.
He's so similar, like skill-wise, size-wise.
Hopefully he doesn't have the same off-field antics.
Yeah, that's obvious. Evan Ingram was 6 for 129 this past week against the Bengals. And then he goes up against the Seattle defense. Now, Seattle, they have one of the best linebacking core in the league. I don't know if he puts up those same kind of numbers, but I do think that Colt McCoy will likely rely on him more than Daniel Jones. I think Wayne
kind of.
Yeah, exactly. I think Wayne Gallman will definitely get a boost because just the reliability of using Wayne Gallman more. And Wayne Gallman, he looked good against the Bengals. Now, again, we're talking about the Bengals who have a terrible defense all around. But he looked pretty good.
So you talked about the Seahawks linebacker core, and I kind of dug into that because they do have obviously their linebackers are
Bobby
phenomenal,
Wagner, KJ Wright.
but their defense hasn't been that great this year. So they're ranked 10th. So they're the 10th worst against tight end this season. I'm not sure if I said that right, but they're not doing too hot against tight ends this year. So yeah, maybe if the backup quarterback uses Ingram as kind of like a safety blanket, maybe he has some success this week, even with the backup quarterback in.
Right on. Now moving on to DJ Moore. He went down with an ankle injury. I don't have an update if what that was, if it was a high ankle sprain or not.
So the X-rays came back negative, and that was the last report. I'm not sure what that means. Literally that.
So
was
it's not broken.
Yeah, exactly. The X-rays came back negative. That was it. So yeah.
Now in my opinion, he's had a down year. Do you think that he continues to struggle?
He had a down year. Like coming I don't know, the first 4 or 5 games, so he wasn't getting as many targets.
He's pushing
Anderson
1,000
there.
yards.
I was going to say he's up there. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I would say he's top 10 in yards. He's in the top 10, right? Do you have the?
I don't have the rankings. I just
he over the last few games he's been getting the targets that Robbie Anderson was getting, the past few weeks before that. So DJ Moore, in my opinion, I think it's a product of that offense losing Christian McCaffrey. So without Christian McCaffrey out there, these defense are, they're able to focus on DJ Moore, the top receiver of the team, a little bit more than they were prior. So I don't think that helped him. That's leaving Robbie Anderson open for more targets.
He's number 7 in receiving yardage. Robbie Anderson's number 9.
Yeah, so he's still, they're almost like a 1A, 1B wide receiver combination, which is not good anytime you're splitting the work. But DJ Moore's still been good this year. So.
Yeah, I like him. If he's healthy, I definitely like him. Unfortunately, he's been more of a big play receiver for the Panthers. But I still he's so talented. I think if he can get his hands on the ball, then he's good to go. Yep. His upcoming schedule, at least the next 2 weeks, are favorable. He's got Denver and then Green Bay, both not that great a defense, and somebody that are defenses that Moore can take advantage of. Next, we got on our list, we got Philip Lindsay. He went out with a knee injury and did not return in that game. What do you think that means for Melvin Gordon?
I think that can be phenomenal for Gordon. I think that Melvin Gordon, he's just a big back that, he's getting a little older, so he's not as explosive as he once was. But when Philip Lindsay's healthy, they're definitely splitting the work there. So like I talked about earlier, I think anybody that's a workhorse in their offense in the NFL, you feel good starting them. But the Broncos coach came out and he described the injury as a minor injury, but didn't say if he would be available for week 13. It sounds to me like they may precautionary take him out for this week, and then maybe he's back week 14. But if Melvin Gordon is the lead back there and he's the workhorse, you have to play him, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2 of the 3 games that Lindsay missed and Gordon played, Gordon had 19 carries and 23 carries. I absolutely would be, and he scored. He scored in 2 of those 3 games also. I think you absolutely have to play him if
versus the Chiefs defense.
I would play if he's the lead running back or the main running back, because who's their third? Not Devontae Booker. Who's there? Oh, Royce Freeman.
They're starting quarterback.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He hasn't been getting much run this year. I think you absolutely have to roll Melvin Gordon out there. I think he's a flex play at least.
Every format, Melvin Gordon, if he's getting all the work, he's a flex play. Easy.
Yeah.
I agree.
And Carolina, the next week, if Lindsay misses more than 1 game, he's got Carolina and Buffalo both are bad rush defenses.
Yep.
Yeah, I like him going forward. And then Josh Jacobs, he went down with an ankle. This is a big one. That could mean that Devontae Booker comes in and becomes a starter there. Do you like Devontae? Do you go to your waiver wire and do you pick up Devontae Booker?
I definitely think he's worth a pickup. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before last. He came into the game. I think he ran for over 100 yards, scored 2 touchdowns. Right? I mean he came anyways. When that offense was playing.
He had
week, that
it was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks. Yeah.
It was against Denver. He had 16 carries for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, so he didn't quite reach the 100-yard mark, but that was in he came in the second half because they were blowing him out, and so that was a half of football. And I don't know what happened last week to the Raiders' offense. It just, they gave up 5 sacks. So
it was a time change.
Yeah,
time change, man.
This offensive line has been playing very good to date. So yeah, if Jacobs is out, you have to pick him up.
Their matchup, they're going up against the Jets this week. So they are going to be able to run the ball.
Would you go Booker or would you go Melvin Gordon?
Okay, I thought you were going to say
Jacobs is out.
I'm going Booker. I'm going Booker.
Yeah, I think so too.
I would hit my waiver wire up and try and get Booker, and if I get him, then I'd be starting him.
So the reports came out. They said Josh Jacobs has a chance to play in Week 13. You never know what that means. And
I'm definitely using my waiver claim on him. I'm running the waiver wire trying to get him.
Yeah, for sure.
Last guy I wanted to bring up, Anthony Costanzo. Now, he's not a position player, but it could be very important for both Phillip Rivers and the Indianapolis run game. He went out with a knee sprain or knee issue and didn't return, and they're saying that's a possible MCL sprain. How much does it hurt that offensive line for him to be out?
Anytime you lose your starting tackle, we're talking about a guy that's 6'7", 307 pounds and can move. It's definitely going to affect the run game. To what extent, I'm not sure who their backup is, to be honest. So, you have to see what they do if they shift that line around, depending on what they do. But, anytime you lose a guy that – anytime you lose a guy like that, it's going to affect you.
Do you feel like you could start Jonathan Taylor this week up against?
Got to Texans defense. I don't care if they have a wide receiver playing tackle there. You got to start Josh Jacobs versus Texans defense.
Or
Josh Jacobs? Sorry.
Could you? Jonathan Taylor. Do you? What if Jonathan Taylor's out? Do you still start Nyheim Hines, Jordan Wilkins?
I think you have to. A combination of either. If and it may be different if they're playing any other defense besides this Texans defense. This defense has just these teams are running all over this defense.
I agree.
It's not good. So, I feel like you have to have parts of this this backfield. Whoever it is.
His backup is Chaz Green. Chaz Green is was the guy that came in for Tyron Smith in Dallas last year and just got ran all over.
Man. Thanks.
Yeah,
Chaz Green, he went to Florida.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I still like Jonathan Taylor. I would start him, no doubt. Even if Anthony Costanzo's out. I know that there were talks about Robert Kelly, their center, being out or having an injury as well. Talks are that he's going to be back. I think if they're putting 5 guys out there against the Houston Texans, then I'm starting Jonathan Taylor. I'm putting him in my.
That's what I said. I don't care if the tackle's a wide receiver. You got to.
Right. Yeah. All right. That's all I've got for this episode. Anything else you want to bring up, Kyle?
No. Hopefully you guys are winning in your fantasy football leagues. We're approaching the playoffs, so you guys can look forward to us doing a show, more focused on the fantasy football playoffs, maybe touching on some good matchups for your teams, some pivots, if Deshaun Watson isn't playing.
Kyler Murray's shoulder issue.
Kyler Murray. There's a lot of stuff to talk about going forward, so we'll do a show just focus on just the playoffs. And, other than that, thanks for listening.
Juan, we miss you.
Juan.
Hope to see you back next week.
He's speaking for himself. I didn't miss you.
That's brutal.
All right.
That's rough.
Well, this is another episode of In the Booth Fantasy Football Podcast.
Thanks for all of you guys tuning in. Hopefully you come back, listen to us again when we're at full staff for Kyle. This is Brent. We're out.